Association, or ILGA, the International Human Rights Commission.
Okay. Get a mic.
Pride and said, you're the official representative of all the Pride groups worldwide. We want to write a letter stating our acceptance and support of Pride events, and also obviously getting their statements across.
We'll make a point of this during the interview. That's good. We want to hear that.
Okay, Rob, I'm rolling.
Okay, well, let's back up just for a second. Since you've taken over this Interpride job, has your title changed at Atlanta Pride?
Right now, it's still
co-chair and
right
board
now,
and event. Is that still
right? And it's actually officially changing. Right now, it's chair because we don't have a co-chair.
Okay.
And in December, the board will hold elections, and there'll be a president.
Okay.
I'm running for that, but I mean, we won't state that. But it's
so you did or did not have elections for
not
board?
for the board, yes, but not for the officers.
Got it.
These were for the board of directors position. What they normally do is then the month later, they allow everyone then to run, and we're going to have a president and 2 vice presidents and a secretary.
Talk to me.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
That's okay. That's all right. You can leave it on the ground.
Oh.
Just leave it sit.
Here, let's do it. Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's all right. Just leave it
Just
down.
leave it right there.
Actually, let me just move it so I don't trip.
Yeah.
There. Thank
So
you.
you want to say co-chair or chair?
Chair, please.
Okay. You're rolling?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can pick it up and start anywhere
Right.
you want. And I'll just let it run with you.
Okay.
I'll be right. You don't need to. I'll be right back.
Okay, we're with Glen Paul Friedman. Welcome back to Out TV Atlanta.
Thank you. I'm really pleased to be here.
Glen Paul Friedman is chair of the Atlanta Pride Committee, board, chair of the board chairman.
I guess is the easiest way is chair of the board in the Pride event.
Right. Well, since we saw you last in August, there have been a number of things that have happened with Pride, and we would like to cover those in the next few minutes. In August, you met with the leather community at Eagle. I'd like to touch on that. And then 2 weeks ago, you hosted the 19th International Conference of Interpride. You and Donna Narducci were sort of the coordinators for that, weren't you?
Exactly true.
And last week was your annual board meeting. It's a lot of stuff to cover.
There's been a lot happening on Pride. It's been kind of great. It has been truly Pride for the last 2 months.
Well, that's great. Well, let's try to get up to date. Let's start with the board meeting and maybe start with what happened, if there's something significant with the Eagle meeting with the leather community and your annual board meeting. There's something to talk about here.
Sure. Actually, Donna Narducci, who's the executive director of Atlanta Pride, and myself as chair, were very honored that we actually got invited by the leather community to come to an open community forum sponsored by them to talk about how can our 2 groups work closer together for Pride 2001. And out of that meeting, I think, was that several people put in for board positions, people are putting in for festival, as well as general volunteer positions. And for us, what we looked at it as a stepping stone in spearheading, being more community outreach. That is probably our #1 goal this year for Atlanta Pride, is a greater community outreach to bring more of the community in line with Atlanta Pride and vice versa. And the leather community helped us to do that. They had a lot of great suggestions. They talked about how we can work together on fundraising, how can we work together on different events. And out of that, we actually had 3 individuals who put in for board positions. 2 of them were elected.
Oh, good.
And we are very excited about that. And I think it just truly shows how our community works together and how we all help each other. And even though we come from different facets of the community, we're all here for the same purpose.
Right. There was some discussion in that August meeting about closer coordination between Leatherfest and Pride. Is anything new there?
Not more than we know of, but our goal is as we get closer to Pride, and usually a lot of us, we kind of kick off again in January. There's kind of the plenary planning stages right now. But as we get closer to their event and our event, I think what we agreed to and that we definitely want to do is help to promote each other's events, whether it be through our related events guide on our website, through their site. The other is as nice as there was a fundraiser that was sponsored by the leather community in conjunction with Pride. They asked us to do that and jointly together, was the play in Berlin, and it was a great event. And again, it just shows how both groups working together, partnershiping together, is so important.
I should have imagined that Jim Grimsley's play about in Berlin and the leather community should have come right back to Atlanta with the leather community.
It was great. I mean, I think Don and I were there, and I think the play was wonderful, and I think more importantly, it was wonderful to see Samantha representing from the leather community get up there and speaking. And it's just these type of partnerships and these type of things, 2 groups like our 2, like the leather community and Pride, working together, I think should be a great example for other community and other organizations how important it is to communicate to each other.
Okay, a couple quick points about the August meeting, and then we'll move on. There was talk about the high cost of ads. There was talk about splitting cost of booths, and there was shared cost of tents. Has any of that changed?
None of that came up at the general meeting, in which the meeting was open to everyone in the community and people had an opportunity to ask questions. The things that we've come out of that, one is we are looking at a different type of format for the Pride Guide. We're still in preliminary stages right now. We are looking at whatever guide we have, there will be some discounted and more affordable rates for our community-based organizations, as well as our community sponsors and advertisers who have been with us in years past, to make that easier. As for the Pride Market, the booth space is pretty much in line with other organizations and other type of events. Right now we're still working about where in Piedmont Park are we going to be. There's been a lot of discussion how we're going to do the layout, and probably won't know any of that information for a couple of months.
Okay. You told me earlier that you're now chair of the board of Atlanta Pride, and there'd be an election in December.
That is correct.
For officers.
Right.
Now, how does that work versus who was just elected to the board?
Sure. We actually have 12 seats on the Atlanta Pride Board of Directors, which is a 2-year term. We staggered 6 got elected this year, and then the 6 next year, so they're never all 12 at one time.
Got it.
The 6 new individuals, great. They bring a lot of interesting opportunities to the board. Some of them have fundraising experience. 2 of them are involved in the leather community. Some are involved in HRC. Some are school teachers and involved in Glen and different organizations, which is nice, as each of them brings something unique and different to the board. But the new 6, as well as the returning 6, I think this will help us to focus truly on policy and procedures, outreach and fundraising, to make us more visible within the community, and that's truly our goals. And how it works is, then a month later in December, those 12 people will elect, per the new bylaws, their officers, which will be a president of either gender, self-identified, as well as 2 vice presidents, 1 male, 1 female, and then we'll have a secretary, and then each of the other board members will have specific responsibilities with a portfolio, whether that be fundraising, outreach, some type of policy and procedures, or the budget review process.
One other thing about that meeting, there was discussion about grand marshals. Is there anything new on that in the 2001 Pride?
Yes. Last year was our 30th anniversary, and we decided to do 30 Pride marshals. We're going to go back to the way it has been in the past, where there'll most likely be 2 or 4 grand marshals representing the community, and at the, I'm not exactly sure if that'll be our December or most likely maybe our January, we'll host a general meeting, and at that point the whole community, everyone is eligible to vote, will come and we'll ask the different organizations to submit names of who they believe should be honored this year as a grand marshal.
Right.
We are also, if I may, we are also going to do the Community Builder Awards this year. It was very well received.
Good.
That way, this truly has to be a community event. It always has been that, but we're really focusing more on the community this year, and that gives every organization an opportunity to recognize and honor someone within their own organization so that they can be nominated and approved. That way we have the Grand Marshals, and then we have the Community Builders. I think that helps us to be a much more well-rounded, community-based, grassroots Pride event.
Okay, before we move to Interpride, is there anything out of the board meeting that we haven't talked about that you want to mention?
I just would like to say that we are very honored this year. A lot of people did really well on fundraising. We are fiscally, healthily sound. We wish we could have raised more money, and we're always taking donations.
We always need money.
But we ended the year we have approximately around $19,000 in the bank. That'll help us to kick off next year. That's money within our CD investment account, who we have with A.G. Edwards, or our bank account with First Union. But more importantly is that we are going to have our returning 5 staff people. Donna Narducci is our executive director, Tricia Kleinmore is our festival director, who's part-time, Paul Gibson, who's our director of finance, will be returning as our main staff people, and then we have 2 who are what we call on-call or special projects, which is we have a CPA as well as her name is Hazel Edler, and then we have Ted Gardaki, who is our general counsel. So it's good.
Okay.
Oh, and just to say that for those who are looking for Atlanta Pride, if you need to come by our office, we have moved. We're at 159 Ralph McGill. Glad is sharing
some good neighbors down there.
It's great. Glad is sharing office space with us, as well as AIDS Survival, Positive Impact, and some other very good
We need to come by and
organizations.
see you all down there.
We'd like that.
Do a little piece on all those little groups together.
And that would be
That's
great.
really neat.
It's wonderful
Nice.
being
That's
in
the
the.
old Methodist.
It is, and it is great because it's on the 5th floor and the 6th floor. And when we all had to vacate 828, it was nice that a lot of us moved together.
Well, let's go to Interpride. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you very
Glen
much.
Paul Friedman is now the international president of Interpride. And Interpride is an organization of groups from all over the world who come together for pride planning. Is that right?
And I guess the best way to describe Interpride, it is kind of like, I don't want to say like the parent organization, but all these pride groups, you know, self-identified as pride groups, could be a music festival, could be parade, could be a marketplace and parties. It just depends on how they identify, you know, as a nonprofit, in the terms of U.S. nonprofit, worldwide pride organizations that all belong to this international networking organization. We represent between 16 and 18 million people.
Wow.
That can be brought to the streets in a grassroots type pride event throughout the year. And with that, with Interpride, we have literally pride events throughout the world. And this year we held the 19th annual Pride event, annual conference, that was held in Atlanta. Next year, it's always held in October. Next year it's going to be in Auckland, New Zealand. And for the first time ever, we had representation from Pride events, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Israel, from Tokyo, Japan. We had quite a few Pride organizers from Germany, from Iceland, from London, Scotland. It's really amazing from
About
Sydney.
a dozen places I saw.
Yeah, I mean, it truly
Dozen countries.
Yeah, which is great because for us, I mean, a lot of people go to organizations, but to truly have this international representation, and the purpose of Interpride is to unify and work together for an international theme, which is embrace diversity. And with that is for all of us to do networking, share information, and help those different pride groups that need help through governments, through permits, sharing of resources, would that be sponsorship, entertainment, how to put on a pride event. And that's truly what we look to do. And what our bigger picture for Interpride is for us to work with different local partnerships with other gay and lesbian organizations, straight organizations, as well as local governments.
What about what happened then at Interpride here with all these people together from, well, first of all, let me ask you this. Is the presidency sort of a rotating thing from country to country, or is it a democratic process, or how does that work?
It's a democratic process. We have the presidents, we have vice presidents, and we have secretary, treasurer, and they are all elected on a stagger year.
So where was the outgoing president from?
From San Francisco. American.
But
And
there have been from other lands.
there has not been any presidents from Europe, or actually the previous one, Teddy Wetherington, was from England, and then he moved to San Francisco. So I guess we would say that he actually there was a European. We have people who are currently holding office from Berlin, from Buenos Aires, Argentina, and from Auckland, New Zealand, as well as also from the United States. So we do have a very good international base of officers. We also have 20 regions that represents all of the world for pride groups, and they're from North America, U.S., from Europe, Asia. But with Interpride at the conference, which was great, was that we had different workshops that were hosted by these different pride groups, as well as that we asked different people from within our community to help educate the different pride organizers on how to do 501c3, how to do legal matters, how to plan an event, how to do a parade.
There are a lot of new ones coming along, so you're helping those people along.
Absolutely. And the pride events can be anywhere from a pride event that actually has just a couple hundred people, you know, for a very small parade, or just maybe it's just movies, you know, like a gay and lesbian out on film type thing, you know, out TV. It could be where they actually host parades in a vendor market type location. It's just interesting because all of them are different. They go from a couple hundred people, you know, up to Atlanta Pride, which is 300,000, all the way up to New York, you know, which is close to 1 million people. And Interpride also hosts, you know, we also handle the World Pride event, which was the World Pride event that was in Rome this past July.
Tell me about this role as White House liaison in Europe.
Yeah, prior to accepting the position as president, I was vice president, and that my responsibilities was liaison to the White House, and that's working with the White House. In this case was Julian Potter, who is the director of outreach, liaison outreach, and she worked for Vice President Gore and currently then for President Clinton. And which was great was that about 5 years ago, the White House wanted to be able to more or less show their support for the gay and lesbian community. And by doing that, the president, the first sitting vice president, wrote a letter and stated a proclamation honoring gay and lesbians for Pride events and a welcome letter, as well as proclaiming June as Gay and Lesbian Pride Month. It's the first time it's ever been done, and they called Interpride, and we worked together to make sure that those proclamations and those letters of welcome got to all Pride events, and not just in the United States, which you would assume would just be U.S., but those were sent throughout the world to all these Pride events. And where it's really where the partnershiping with the White House helped was for those countries like in Rome, Italy, or in Berlin, or in Austria, or as well as in Auckland, New Zealand, that those letters, those individual Pride groups took to their own local governments and said, look, here the United States has written letters honoring Pride events in the gay and lesbian community. Why are you not doing that? It's also like in Argentina, where there was quite a few problems with holding a Pride event, where people are still persecuted for having Pride events or being out and gay or lesbian. So those type of letters were great. And with that, we were honored to have Julian Potter, again, who's the director of Gay and Lesbian Outreach, or Gay Lesbian Liaison to the President, was the keynote speaker at the Interpride conference on the opening day, which she talked about what the White House has done, talked about how Pride events are so important to the White House and why Pride events are so important to the gay and lesbian community. And she also took questions afterwards, and it was really nice to have her there.
Well, I don't want to get too political. What will happen if there's a change in administration? You want to speculate?
My feeling would be, and actually listening to Julian Potter, she actually went on record and said that if Governor Bush was to be elected president, that most likely that position would be dissolved. I would anticipate that there probably would not be any more liaison position or a dialogue between the gay and lesbian Interpride or the Pride events to the White House. And I think that, Atlanta Pride and Interpride, because of, our status, we have not been political in the way of endorsing. But myself personally, I just think this is so important for everyone in the gay and lesbian community. Has to go out and vote.
Absolutely.
Certainly vote their conscience. I think it's no surprise that how most of us are going to vote. But it's just so important that people get out there and vote for those people who truly support what we're doing.
Well, we at RTV Atlanta don't take a position either, but everybody needs to get out and vote, obviously, and that's the most important thing. Well, listen, this has been Paul Glen Friedman, chairperson from Pride Committee Atlanta, and thanks so much for coming back to see us.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity, and we just really appreciate everything you've been doing for our community. We are so glad that you are here. It's
good luck on your new journeys around the world with Interpride.
It's great.
That's neat.
Yeah, I'm very excited. It means a lot for Atlanta.
Somebody said the first Southerner to be elected?
It is. It's the first time that somebody in the South has been elected to this international position, and I'm very excited because it means a lot for me personally, but I think it means a lot to have someone in this type of position from Atlanta, being involved in Pride Group, but more importantly, I'm involved in a lot of other organizations, and I think that it's extremely important that a lot of us here in the South are out there and being very supportive in a lot of organizations.
Well, it's a real tribute to you and to Pride and to Atlanta, and thanks so much.
Well, thank you very much for being here. Good, thank you.
Mike?
I don't think I butchered that too much.
No. We'll probably do two pieces out of this, because this is running a bit long, but maybe the